welcome again for a great live webinar by Adapty team. And today we're going to talk about the fresh numbers about our latest report, State of In-App Subscriptions 2025. And we actually get amazing data and useful data for this year, and more than 75 pages report about in-app subscriptions for this year. And I think it will be really useful for app developers, indie developers, and founders, growth marketers in the industry. And because I have a lot of app developer and founder friends, they're asking me like crazy, when will you release this report? And they really want to check the report and insights. And yeah, and I have two really amazing guests. First of all, Ariel from App Figures team. Hi, Ariel. Welcome.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah,
Thank you
nice
for
to
having
see
me
you here
on.
again. Yeah, real nice to see you here today. And Max, my co-host for today, uh, similar face from our Adaptive team. Welcome, Max.
Yeah, thanks, Murat. Thanks, Murat. I'm very happy to see you again as a co-host. So yeah, I think it will be a lovely discussion today. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Um, maybe I can start the uh, first. I can try starting the slideshow, share screen, and we can share the screen.
Cool.
Can you see it?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, with our great photos here. And yeah, I can share the first screen about our report. You can see the apps that are using Adapty, and actually 11,000 apps and plus apps work with Adapty, and we analyze almost $1.9 billion subscription revenue to create this amazing report. And the report includes all categories, but we have detailed metrics for six major categories like health and fitness, photo, video, productivity, utility, and lifestyle and education categories. And we also have some metrics for six regions in the report, and we'll talk about some details soon. And it's really packed with the ready to test ideas, some A/B test ideas, some prices, conversion insights, and refund rates. For example, everyone tries to learn some benchmarks from refunds, and it's really too hard to find it by yourself. And if you haven't downloaded the report, you can find it on our website, but we'll also share the QR code, and you can check all of the report later. We'll try to discuss a quick part of it, and I hope it will be helpful for our audience. And maybe I can introduce my guest for today, but we have really popular name from the industry. Maybe I can start with the Ariel, because I was really watching your videos about App Store optimization. I learned from you a lot, Ariel, and really glad to see you today here. Really, to be honest. And maybe would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. I mean, where do we even begin? So I have been running app figures for 16 years now, and I've been watching the app industry really from the beginning. I love apps. I started as an app developer, as a game developer, actually. Fun fact that some people may not know. And I've been watching apps and games over the last 16 years really flourish from something that was kind of a joke into something that is making people so much money that we're here today talking about how to make it even better, right? So I also teach how to do App Store optimization, how to do Apple Ads optimization, how to do really every optimization you can think of beyond the code. So if you're building an app and you're thinking about how do I make it make money, because ultimately that's what we want, more downloads, more money, come to my newsletter, come to my YouTube channel, and you'll get to learn that as you have, and that's kind of amazing. A real user, a real viewer,
Yeah. Thanks again for joining us today. And Max,
of course.
maybe you can also introduce
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, for sure. I work in Adapty, and my biggest like responsibility is to grow and build growth products inside of Adapty, which help users of different size, from the small ones to the enterprise ones, to get better results of the revenue, to get better recommendations on what they should do and what they shouldn't, to get the biggest uplift available for them. So I am talking to a lot of users. I am seeing a lot of paywalls and stuff. So I'm really happy that we will have a discussion today on what we gathered so far in our report, which we were gathering for like a lot of time in terms of like gathering the data. And I think there will be a lot of valuable things all across the globe, all across the category. So I'm very happy to really discuss it with all of you guys.
Cool. Um, yeah, maybe we can start with the first insight from our report. Uh, how can I go to next? Yeah, this is the first insight. It's really interesting to see. I really wanted to start with the subscription revenue share by region. And most of developers can understand that the United States is the most popular region in the world. Yeah, the most of the subscription revenue comes from the United States, but you can clearly see that the Europe is the second position, and APAC is also really rising in the regions. Um, Maybe we can start with talking with it. And what are you guys thinking about these data? We can start with the Ariel, maybe, our guest.
Oh, you said data in my name. That's of course how we get started. I mean, so this makes a lot of sense, and a lot of people think that the US is the only market to optimize for. Because I think about it from an optimization standpoint, whether it's optimizing the paywall or optimizing your App Store optimization, your keywords, or even your Apple search ads or your custom product pages, what I talked about in my on my live stream last week. But ultimately, clearly it's a lot of money. And if you're not optimizing for anything, that should be a good starting point. But going beyond that, especially if you're a localized app, is obviously very, very important. So if you're not really optimizing for outside the US and you have an app that is already used by someone outside the US, which you can see by your downloads, that's such an amazing opportunity, especially now when optimization tools have made it a lot easier to see what's going on in other countries and even in other languages. For example, when you do App Store optimization, you want to do it in local language, wherever it is that you're going, even for English speaking countries. But at the same time, it's sometimes a little bit more challenging. And so with tools today, you can just figure out what your competitors are doing in really any country in any language, get that translated automatically, and boom, put that into your ASO, put that into your Apple ad. So there's really no reason not to, especially looking at these numbers. I mean, look at APAC. APAC is small in comparison to the US, but how many people are in APAC? If you think about it, there's so much opportunity, especially on the Google Play side of things, that you shouldn't ignore it.
Yeah,
And I have
yeah.
also have a question. What do you think, Ariel? Is it necessary for every app to go to the States, or it's more like, a very brave decision to make, and not everyone should like try to go to this super high competitive market?
Realistically, absolutely. I mean, why
Hmm.
would you want to exclude yourself from a
Yeah.
half of the pie? Almost literally half of the pie. It's kind of like you're saying, I don't like money, or I only like half of the money. But also, there is a lot more competition, but there's also a much longer tail. So even
Hmm.
if you end up with, I can't be number one, I can't be number two, you can still be number 10 and still make some money. And that's
Hmm.
probably going to be more than you would get in APAC when you're number two. So
Yeah.
absolutely, I
Mhm.
no reason to exclude that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only case I see is like based on my talking with the customers, if when they found a super local niche, for their region, and that's the only thing
Yeah.
that like really works well. I don't know, like in Saudi Arabia, for example, I have a couple of clients who have things for like Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, and their app is done specifically for the region. And yeah, it's a pretty good solution there, which where going to states may not sound like a wonderful idea here, but on the other any case, I agree that you definitely need to try, and more likely you really get the piece of this pie because it's pretty big. If you talk about
Yeah,
$2
absolutely.
billion, 50% of it, and that's a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah, absolutely.
sorry, and you know, maybe I would say you need to start with the competitor research first, with the some tools like app figures. Maybe you can check your competitors 5 to 10 maybe, and you can check their revenue, their install rates from which countries. For example, when I check some apps like AI apps, and some of them really focusing on countries like Arabic countries, and
Hmm.
it was really hard to target those countries before AI, maybe I would say, but now it's really so easy to localize your app, translate your
Hmm.
app to your users, or create some creatives for user acquisition, because when when I was checking some apps targeting Arabic people, they were absolutely using the same creatives with the AI UGC creatives, but the same UGC was talking in English and then Arabic and
Hmm.
Portuguese maybe. It's really insane. We were spending a lot of weeks to get some localization text from the translators
Hmm.
before AI, but now I can just spend maybe 10 minutes to get the localization. I would
It's very
say,
true.
Yeah.
The one thing I would add to that is if you are taking the time to localize, you shouldn't just use the same creatives. It might work, and in the world of AI, everything kind of seems to work, so the bar is very low. But in the world of other apps that are not as in demand or just normal in demand, there is a big difference between localization and internationalization. So you want to make the screenshots really cater to the culture. And the reason I say this is on my live stream a while back, I had a guy who does A/B testing professionally, and his company did A/B tests for Google. And one of the A/B tests they ran was for Google Maps. And I bring this example all the time because it's such a good example. You would imagine that Google Maps, everyone knows Google, right? So everyone would download Google Maps. So if you change screenshots, that should not change any conversion rate. And that's false. He showed us all of the data. He shared it on my live stream, and he showed us how when they use screenshots from the US, specifically when they use buses that look like US buses, because buses in the
Mhm.
UK and buses in the US are very different, they had lower conversion. So they tested using UK buses in the UK, which makes sense, and they increased conversion because now people felt like this is the app for them, and that's Google. So unless you're Google, even Google can't get away with it. You shouldn't either. And like you said, with AI, it's so much easier. You can even have the AI generated for the localized culture. So you don't really have to invent the wheel in any way.
yeah, maybe I can also add something here. I shared it a lot on our live streams, but uh, if you check the Instagram's product page on the App Store, they used all the same screenshots in all around the world. Maybe you can see the United States, UK, they're using the same screenshots. But if you check the Japan, they're using almost different screenshots. I think it is the localization, and
Absolutely.
maybe you can you
I'm
can check it
looking it up as
live.
we're talking now.
Yeah, yeah. You can
I'm
see
scrolling through.
they're using some popular dog from Japan. I don't remember the name of the dog, and they're using a popular name from Japan. She's really famous actor in Japan, and yeah, because I checked all the countries, and all the countries was the same screenshots instead of Japan.
Interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I do see a little bit different. It's weird. It's not as different as I expected, but it is different.
Really?
They shuffle
Maybe
the
they,
screenshots.
Mhm.
This is on the App Store. Maybe on Google Play it's a little bit different. But they definitely have different screenshots and a different order. Let's see. Yeah, you're
it
right.
is
In
the
all the
same?
languages, it's exactly the same. No, no, no. In Japan, it's not the same.
Yeah, yeah,
But in all the other languages, it is the same.
yeah.
Actually,
This
wait.
is my
Japan
personal
maybe.
insight.
No, but I think Japan might actually be the same now. Oh, no. Okay, so some countries are different, but not all countries. Oh, this is very strange. No, I think it's the same now, but I think some other languages are not the same. Let's see, Portuguese. No,
Really?
I think they're the
I'll,
same now. Maybe it was a
really?
custom product page you saw. Let's see
Yeah,
if they use
maybe,
custom
maybe.
product pages. Oh yeah, they okay. They have a lot of custom product pages. Yeah, that has to be it. Because I see what you're talking about now. I'll share all this on Twitter later on X.
Okay,
So if anyone
okay.
cares to see the specifics, I'll share those. It's definitely interesting. And I've been talking a lot about custom product pages because I think that's the secret weapon of the App Store. And as a developer, you have to use it. You had to use it when you were using Apple Ads. That's just a necessity in my view. And I've been talking about this all year. But now that in iOS 26, you will be able to get custom product pages to show up organically, that's just a game changer. Like if you're not doing that, what are you doing? You just should do that. I know I'm deviating away from where we want to be on the data, but side note, you have to use custom product pages. Go set them up now because in September they're going to be amazingly useful. I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, cool.
Cool.
Maybe we can continue with the next data.
We should.
Yeah, trends in subscription lengths. We can talk about this. As you can clearly see, long-term plans are less popular now, and people like short and flexible pricing options more often. We see on our data, and weekly plans grow by nearly 10% since 2024. And also, you can also see the rise of the one-time purchases. Maybe it could be about the short drama apps. I don't know if Ariel, if you have some data about it. They have different monetization on the short
Hmm.
drama apps. They're selling some coins with one-time purchases, and they also share some weekly subscriptions.
I have many thoughts. I'll start at the beginning, though. I think so. We've seen the buy now, pay later kind of epidemic happening over the last few years, really across the board. So we see it with physical goods a lot, and recently or lately, I should say, it's really been sloping down. So now even smaller and smaller and smaller goods are getting the same treatment, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing in a way if you squint. And the reason I say this is because more and more and more apps now have a weekly subscription, and the weekly subscription is a multiplier of the monthly if you look at it, but the multiplier is so high that it's really worth it for them even though they're not getting retention. So if you watched any of my live streams, you know that when I talk about subscriptions, the goal is retention. That's how you make money. You don't make money off of a very high subscription once. You really want to spread it out because you want that consistent income, which this is the exact opposite of if you think about it. But because of this, that's allowing people to try the app in a way that maybe has a much lower friction, especially as subscription costs are going up over time. We see them, they were really low to begin with, and they're slowly inching their way up. And it makes sense. There's more value, more complexity. So I think making it so that people can try the app, and it's not really a trial, but to feel like they're getting the full app and not pay the full subscription price is such a good mental hack to get people to at least give it a shot. And we know that and the data also shows, and maybe Max can tell us more about this, more people are not going to upgrade away from the weekly. They're just going to get stuck with the weekly and be happy about it and move on, especially for stuff that's for business or utilities or things that the cost is kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. So to me, that makes sense. And I don't think that's a trend that's necessarily going away. I think that's a trend that will fit the audience. And what I would do is I don't think it would fit every app because, or I don't think it would be as prevalent in every app. Every app should try it at least. But I would look at the demographics of your app versus your competitors and make sure that if you have a much younger crowd, you at least must have a weekly subscription. If you don't, then you can try it, but you don't need it. But if your user base skews a little bit younger, you should definitely have one. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts, Max?
I totally agree. And recently, I've seen a paywall from one of our customer, and he has both the subscriptions and the one-time purchases on one paywall, and it was very surprising for me that like people to combine it, but the data shows us that it's really true, and they just like use the most trendy things in one paywall, which is pretty nice. So yeah, I think regarding the weekly. It's mostly connected with the thing that there is a lot of new apps coming every day, every hour, and it's very hard to, attract the customer and to like prove him that he needs to purchase a monthly or annual one. That's why really weekly is a win-win solution where a client can get value and the app owner can make money. So I think that's the reason why the weekly
Mhm.
is growing, and I'm pretty sure that it will be growing more and more. While if we talk about the one-time purchase, I think we can kind of like recreate it as a pay as you go or something like that, because you pay for the coins or
Mhm.
for like any like internal value, and then you just buy what you want, and you cannot
Mhm.
spend them all at once, which is pretty nice. And I think this is also connecting with the trend of pay as you go, because all B2B services are more or less going this way, and I think the mobile apps maybe will try to head there too, because in the beginning, one-time purchase was only about the gaming apps, more or less, as far as I see the market, right? But now it can happen everywhere, starting from like a house app or whatever. And it's pretty interesting for me because I think it's also connected with the trend of the gamification somehow, because you can like buy and think about how much I want to spend, and maybe there will be like a bigger discount if I buy more of these coins and stuff. So yeah, I think it combines all the trends which are seen in all of the spheres, whether it's B2B or B2C. And I think that weekly and one-time purchase will continue growing, while such things as monthly for sure will be decreasing. Annual is something that I think will be remain forever for now. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to see that these are growing pretty rapid. 10% per year is a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I have a question, a follow-up question that I don't think the data covers because we looked at this.
Uh,
But do you have data on games versus apps?
um, I would say that if we do have, it's internal since we don't have that much data on the gaming. So yeah, I would say that it's more like internal information for now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and that's something that I've been looking at for a long time
mhm,
because games and subscriptions never really work together. I think most of the games have not been able to figure out how to get subscriptions to work. And that's because they have coins and they have ways of getting more out of people. And I think I've seen more and more and more games go in this direction of using subscriptions. Not a
mhm.
lot, obviously, based on what you see in your data. So it's definitely not prevalent in any way. But I have a sneaking suspicion that over the next year, 12 months, we're going to see more and more apps try to dip their, more games, I should say, dip their
Mhm.
toes into subscriptions because of the consistency of the revenue and still employ other mechanisms to get the whales to spend more. So get those coins, to get those upgrades, get things to align. And so you'll have both the subscription revenue, which is going to hopefully grow consistently, and also those big hits. And I think once we see that, games will become the way, the goal, the template for how to do subscriptions. I can see that. I've been waiting for that for a while, and I keep watching the data, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, yeah. And I also just remember that I had a lot of clients who I talked to who made one-time purchases, but most of their apps were connected with AI generation. And they told me that we are not
Mm,
going into subscriptions because it's too expensive for us to generate something, whatever, images or text or recreating some like, face tuning or things. That's why we're
mhm.
offering one-time purchases, because we can, easily kind of evaluate how much it will cost for us, and the economics will not be bad. So it's also an interesting way that it just
Interesting.
yeah, generation costs money. Yeah.
So was
Yeah.
it significantly more expensive, the lifetime?
Uh, Yeah, they usually no, it wasn't lifetime usually. It was more one-time purchase of you can buy, I don't know, 10 generations or
Oh, I see what you mean.
five.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
That
So
makes a lot
there's
more
like
sense. I thought you
yeah.
meant lifetime, and
No,
that
no, no. Lifetime is
didn't
something
work
I
for
see
me.
very rare. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I think
Yeah.
Yeah, for example,
dying.
AI video generation apps, it costs really a lot. For
Hmm.
example, VO3, Google's video model. If you wanna create some model, you need to spend a lot of money, and it's actually not easy to make the structure for the credit system. If you have
Hmm.
a small team, and they're just preferring one-time purchases. And we
Yeah.
actually have a question like, what is the difference between lifetime and one-time purchases? But Max answered this question.
Yeah. I wasn't the only one confused. I'm glad.
Yeah,
Well
I
done.
did get this question from X before. I was waiting for this question. Thanks, who's asked. Maybe we can also jump to the next slide. But I really want to make random talk here, like podcast style, and just because we
That's what I'm
were,
here for, I figured.
yeah, because we started talking about categories. Maybe if you have some comments of these categories, we can talk about it too. And it's subscription revenue split by duration and category data from our report.
Max, do you want to start this one? Because I keep talking,
Uh,
and if we continue, I will keep talking for
Feel
the rest of
free,
the live stream.
feel free, Ariel.
Yeah, I think I can only just say that I understand why it happens. Why health and fitness, for example, has the biggest annual, just because really people are usually, want to become a better version of themselves, and they usually are ready to invest money into that. That's why there's a lot of like gym like subscriptions, for example, they're done annually, and then people they just don't go there. But the gym is happy anyways because they get paid.
Hmm.
So I think the same happens in the health and fitness stuff just because it's easy to push users to make this decision to buy the annual one because otherwise they will feel themselves not miserable but like upset that they didn't think much about their house and their like well-being. So that's why I think the annual is just like almost twice bigger than anywhere else. And regarding the weekly, I think that it's also pretty understandable. I'm just only not sure why in lifestyle we see such a different way out, right? Because the other, I think other, it can be whatever, like 3 months or lifetime or one-time purchases. So maybe there is hidden some info. But the other categories, like education, photovideo, productivity, are more or less the same. So it's pretty okay. While these two are interesting to think.
Hmm. Well, so I think what we're seeing here, in addition to demand, it's less about demand and more about supply because when you have all these companies that are realizing that if someone gets just a monthly subscription to this thing that they're probably not even going to use for 3 days straight,
Yeah.
then they're gonna not make a lot of money. I did a live stream with a consultant who spends all of his time just optimizing for retention and optimizing for revenue from subscriptions. And his one and only big take, well, he had many big takes, but his most important big take was always aim to get an annual subscription. Always, always, whatever you have to do, figure it out. And I think in the world of fitness, health and fitness, the trick to do that is to basically take away or discourage from taking any of the other subscriptions. And normally in a competitive landscape, you wouldn't be able to do that because your competitor would be like, no, but come to me for monthly. Whereas I think in fitness, a lot of the apps are realizing the same thing, and because others are doing the same. And this is the importance of competitive research. You have to know what they're offering. You can do the same, and no one's really going to have a way to deviate from that. So if I'm a user and I've downloaded 3 weightlifting apps or something, and I see they all really incentivize me to go yearly, in my mind, I'm not going to think, oh, but I really want to go monthly. I'm going to do what you said before. Think, yeah, but I need to do this. I need to lose some weight before the summer, before my wedding, or before something. And then that plus the lack of availability will lead to me going yearly. And I think that's one of the only industries where we see this, one of the only niches. There are a few micro categories where we do see this also. And that's why it's so important to understand your competition because you might be leaving money on the table otherwise. But generally, we see the distribution that we see in all the other bars. And I think the weekly being so small, also in health and fitness, is exactly why this is happening. If you incentivize users to go yearly, plus that sort of mindset of you have to take care of yourself, plus some sort of an actual discount or price that makes sense, or like a crazy weekly rate, like $100 a week, but $80 per year, then that's how you win. Newspapers used to do that way before the world of mobile. In the days of the news going to the internet, they would have these like crazy subscription tiers where a weekly or like a single edition would be like $3 or $5, and a weekly subscription would be really expensive, and then the yearly would be like $7.99. And so they would kind of force you to go into that direction because they really want to maintain you and retain you for as long as possible. And then they can change the price on you or give you less features or sell you on a different plan. So that makes a lot of sense. And seeing weekly in all the other categories makes sense. I mean, in utilities and productivity, if you've been reading my newsletter, you know that almost every week I show off another category that's making money out of something seemingly boring like fax machines and PDF scanners and QR code scanners. Like those are things no one thinks about, no one cares about. And yet, because they charge weekly, because you only need it for the week, but you end up continuing if you like the app and it just works. It's a utility, so you get value out of it, and they're crushing it. The numbers are astonishing for fax machines. Who even knows what a fax machine is? I think the only place you have to use a fax machine is in Germany, and mostly because someone told me on Twitter that there's one specific process where you have to fax a file. In the US, I don't think most kids know what a fax machine is. Most adults probably don't even know. If I ask college students today, they're like, "What? Are you kidding?" No. And yet that's generating tons of revenue.
Yeah, same here. I was also asking who is using these fax apps, and I got the same answer. In Germany, it's really still popular.
Yeah, but you know, when
Yeah.
I really see the stats of such apps, I usually get very surprised because they're pretty high, and that's very cool that they really found their
Hmm.
niche. They, for like some reason, get huge revenues, great retention, great conversion. So yeah, they just like
Yeah,
found their
it's just
users. They're
insanity.
happy.
I'm gonna look up an app right now and see what it, let's see, of the top apps, top utilities. How many, or let's see, top utilities in the US.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there will be some PDF scanners. I don't know whether the tax, no, the fax app, but
I'm looking specifically for fax apps using Explorer or search engine, and I'm sorting by revenue, and we're gonna find, yeah, this is crazy. So there's a PDF scanner that's making $5 million after store fees from the App Store alone per month. Fax is making $1.5 million. There's another PDF scanner that's making $600,000. Like this is insane to a certain degree, and I don't mean to put anyone here to highlight anyone, but are these apps for laundering money or something? Are they selling some gold and we just don't know about it? Because these numbers are crazy. If you're not building a scanner, a PDF scanner right now, go and build a PDF scanner and at least try to make money with it.
But you know, it's not easy to release any PDF scanner or QR scanner apps.
Hmm.
They're
Apple stands in your way, yes.
yeah, you can get some spam rejection from App Store
Yeah.
team.
You have to do something unique. So build in a feature to make it super special. Build in some AI to your PDF scanner. No one does AI in PDF scanners. I mean, yes, but obviously with that amount of revenue, why not take another day or 2 days or scour the entire category, use app figures, figure out what all the apps are using Explore, read their descriptions one by one, look at their screenshots. The upside is so high. Even if you don't get to $16 million or $6 million or whatever, even if you make $100,000 a month, which is very low on this list, sorted by revenue, still on page one. So
100,000. Wow.
yeah, exactly. So what is this? Number 15 on the list is making about $100,000. I'm okay with that. That's $1 million a year.
Yeah.
So take the time and do your competitor research. And that's, I think, how you can also find the areas where Apple can't say this is a copy and paste and spam.
Yeah.
I think nowadays with the technologies, you can really open the cursor or like Claude Code and like tell that I want to get this app. I don't know, and you
Yeah.
can do it through the weekend. So that's crazy.
Yep. Okay, next
Yeah.
slide, I think, so we can continue.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
we
we're
can
going to be way
continue,
behind.
Lex. Yeah. Yeah. The next one, let's talk about how subscription price change in different categories. Some app categories have big price changes. You can see, for example, in utility apps, a yearly plan can cost 6 times more than a weekly one. In utility,
That's
maybe we can
wild.
call PDF scanner apps, you know.
Yeah.
And lifestyle apps often use expensive monthly plans. It's also interesting data from our report. Yep. Let's talk about this, guys.
Hmm.
Let's talk about this. Well, so we did a pre-show and Max had a really good insight about the difference between the monthly, the yearly, and the weekly, which I think we should all hear about. I don't want to steal it because it's really good.
Yeah, what I think here is that it's extremely valuable to understand the ratio between the subscriptions, which you can check the health of your app, whether you're charging correct money or not. Because as we can see in utilities, for example, the ratio between the weekly to annual is around 6.5, or something like that. And it is a very great instrument to understand whether how much you should charge if you have on annual, for example, for, I don't know, $65. You can for sure calculate and understand that your weekly should cost 10. And on the other hand, if you only have weekly for some reason for like, I don't know, $5, right? You can calculate that your annual should be costing like 33.5 or something. So yeah, I think by seeing this graph, it's pretty easy to understand whether are you into this like period of the prices, and is this really into the market at the moment, and this is also an easy way to calculate whether how much you should charge. So I think this is
Mhm.
extremely valuable to like reuse and to check whether your app house and the subscription prices house is good.
I agree 100%. I think it's one of those things. So pricing is really hard. I don't think there's anyone out there who will come into this room and say, "Nah, pricing is easy. I can do it in my sleep." And if they can, they are probably underpricing everything they touch. I only say this from experience running businesses for the last my entire life. I've been running subscription businesses way before subscriptions were cool, and there's always a 97% chance that you're underpricing yourself. So I'm looking at this chart, and in utilities, if your annual is less than $52, you're underpricing yourself. But this also goes back to what Maura was saying at the beginning. Competitor research is just so critical for understanding what to price yourself, because just because you're lower in price, and this is a huge misconception, does not mean that people will buy your subscription over a competitor. Doesn't at all. It means that if they see you first, maybe. And if they see you first, they might pay you full price anyway because they haven't seen anyone else and they like what you have to offer. But also at the same time, I've seen instances where lower price indicates that it's lower quality. Not always the case, but that's perception, and perception is kind of weird. So looking at something like this, you can do a lot better than just guess at pricing. No one should be guessing at pricing. They should be testing pricing. And if you're not testing your pricing, you're not doing any sort of A/B test on your pricing, again, you're leaving money on the table. So look at your competitors, look at their pricing. I do this all the time with every developer that I talk to. Let's see what the competition does, how well they present themselves, what's their discovery score like, and then also how much do they charge. And that's really the way to understand if you're in the right place. Because if not, like Max said, it's just not what you're supposed to do.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. I think like seeing these numbers are good to make the first level check, but for sure you need to dive into your competitors and understand in your niche how much everybody's pricing, because some
Yeah.
utilities really may cost $50, but others they cost 100. I've seen a lot of apps like this.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's totally it's not even fine. It's mandatory to go and check your competitors to really understand where you at, because underpricing is not cool. You're just not getting enough money,
Yeah,
which you
exactly.
get. Yeah.
And I totally get why people do this. It's so hard to look, because now we're looking at categories and their apps are categories, but in utilities even we just looked at this. You have PDF scanners and you
Yeah.
have fax machines and you have so many other
VPNs. Yeah.
utilities. and they're not exactly the same. Maybe a fax machine can charge $15 a week because who even knows what a fax is, but maybe a PDF scanner can only charge 9. So if you go and you look at the average, you're going to be overpricing or underpricing, depends where you are. And that's why it's so important. We're working on a tool that will allow you to do that, to look at only the competitors who do exactly what you do. So you'll be able to go into App Figures and click your app and then see everyone else that's in the category that our AI believes is what your app does, whether it's 4 apps or 17 apps or even 1,000, depends on what it is. And then we do all the benchmarking off of that as opposed to the store category, and the results are so much better, so much more applicable.
And we have a question, maybe it's to you, Ariel.
Okay.
What category would you put personal finance apps into?
Ah,
Personal finance.
uh, I would do it in finance mostly because if I'm very old-fashioned and I think about how the store works, that's where I would like for it to be. I think you can see where your competitors are and either try to stay away from them or go with them, depending on how well you can perform. So, okay, let me zoom out because that was an all over the place kind of an answer. So there are two real strategies for this. Strategy number one is go where everyone else is. So when someone lands on someone else, they might also see you, finance in this case. Or try to stay away from other people, from other apps, if you know that you're going to do, let's say, an Apple search ads campaign, Apple ads, not search, Apple ads campaign, and that's going to drive up your ratings and that's going to help with your keywords, and you really optimize your keywords, then maybe you want to try lifestyle or even productivity because it's not a bank or anything like that. I would look at the competition for whatever it is that you're building. If it's a financial tracker, let's say, for personal finances, I've seen a lot of those come out over the last year or so, something like that, then I would definitely test maybe productivity, not utilities really, maybe lifestyle. It's not really lifestyle, but the lines are really, really blurred today. Apple is going to reject you if you try to put it in games or in something where it doesn't make any sense, like music. But I think those three are probably going to be kind of the same. Now, the category ultimately is meaningless for most apps because okay, maybe not true. It's less meaningful, mostly because the top ranks, the top categories are kind of still hidden in App Store Connect. They're becoming less and less hidden. But that's really why you would want to make sure you're in the right category. So if someone is browsing the category for fun, they end up seeing you. That doesn't really happen as much now as it did back 10 years ago. So it's not that big of a deal. I think really what you have to focus on is your keywords and make sure that you can be found because that's really where most of the downloads are coming from. People are coming into the App Store, they have a thing they need, and they need it. So I would more worry about that. There is a little bit of a case where sometimes Apple associates some categories with some keywords, but that's for stuff that's very generic, and most new apps are not even going to benefit from that anyway. So focus on your keywords more so than your category, but look at the competition.
Cool. Thanks for the answer. Maybe we can continue with the next. Yeah, let's take a look at this chart, and it's actually showing how much money users bring over time, depending on the plan they choose, weekly, monthly, or annual. And you can see that weekly plans start with a very low LTV, but they grow a lot of over the time. Monthly is more stable. You can see an annual stays flat until renewal. If you check the 12 month, um, I think it's also a really interesting LTV chart. By the way, we have LTV chart for other regions as well, like Europe, APAC, and other regions. You can check if you download full report, you can see the other regions. Yeah, let's talk about the LTV chart.
Yeah, I was
I mean,
surprised
so
to hear. Yeah, go ahead,
good.
Eric.
No, I think you were going to say what I'm going to say because you said it originally, and I was going to steal it from you. So I'm not going to steal it
Go
from you.
ahead, go
That's
ahead.
your
Let's
take.
just swap.
We'll swap. Okay, so you get to respond to what you said before, but the one thing that is very obvious is that they all kind of culminate in the same place. So regardless of what you have, you end up with a similar LTV, which is strange on one hand, might make sense. How do you reason this?
That's a good question. I think,
I do what I can to steal your takes.
yeah, yeah. So I think it can be reasoned by the fact that Um, but the fact that weekly, the ratio we talked in the previous slide, this like 1 to 6, is more or less connected with the price of an annual. So it just really needs to be paid 6 weeks for the revenue be generated the same amount as for the annual one. And I think
Mhm.
this is the like secret of it, because you don't need that much weeks for the user to be resubscribed for, and this will bring you the great amount of revenue per user and the LTV too. And that's why we see that the LTV of the weekly is really getting bigger than the annual on around like 7 months. And this is really surprising for me and making me really happy that actually in US, whatever you choose, will most likely work well. But as we just saw in the previous slides, you just need to really try to combine weekly and annual, and there are no ways where you lose because if you got
Yep.
the user who got the weekly, you receive pretty the same LTV as the annual. So really, you just need to find the best combination of how to make them purchase, and that's your goal. What they're purchasing, whether it's weekly or annual, is something that we can see on this graph. Makes us making pretty the same money, which is, I think, very nice. So if you talk about the other regions, which are not, I think, will be covered in our presentation, the situation is a little bit different. But in the US, weekly and annual is something that you definitely need to like try together, because you will have a win-win situation based on the money on the 12 months.
And this goes back to what we were talking about before, or do you want to exclude half of the pie? And obviously no, because
Yeah.
that's the easy half of the pie. So definitely try in the US. Well, maybe a follow-up question is if I, let's say, want to run, I know many people don't run A/B tests on their paywalls. And I think that's a kind of a challenge that you as Adapty has and people in general need to start thinking about. That's something I'm trying to evoke in the viewers of my videos. If you had one A/B test that you could run, and let's say you have a weekly and you have a yearly subscription, what would you test? And let's say we're in the US because we want this to be as optimized as possible.
Mhm. I think that I would test for sure, based on what we already discussed. I would check my competitors, right, to see what they're
Yeah.
charging and what are the prices and stuff. So I think the first thing
Yep.
will be to understand whether my price is really applicable and in pretty the same benchmark as the competitors. And
Mhm.
the second here is that based on what we saw, if my category is not house and fitness, for example, and any other category, then I would try different paywalls of trying to push people with a combination of weekly and annual. And I think we will cover it later, I believe. But I will try to also go with a free trial for the annual one. And I'll just try to find the most conversion and the best way to convert people to the trial or whether to the weekly subscription. And I think there I'll be just testing two things, the visual and the prices itself. So make sure that I really do price
Mhm.
correctly. Maybe, for example, like, I don't know, $8 per week and $10 per week in these two different options. And the same with the annual. And try to find the most optimum ones, because I think for sure, most likely the biggest uplift and the biggest revenue is hidden if you go together with the weekly and annual. Would you do the
Go home
same,
and
or you would
test.
use the other approach? What do you think?
I think I love A/B testing. I've been A/B testing on the web way before it was easy. I built two A/B testing frameworks for internal use in my life. I will test everything. But I think realistically, if you think about even a difference of $2, you said 8 and 10 for a weekly, that could be a huge difference, especially if you're spending money on ads and you're getting this conversion and you're optimizing everything else. You're optimizing your keywords and your custom product pages. That little difference, especially if it's pure profit, pure profit. If it's pure profit, that works really, really well for you. $2, multiply that, and it's all recurring. And we're talking about a weekly subscription, not a monthly, not a yearly.
Mhm.
So that's I think a very easy to test type of a thing. Everyone can go home, or if you're home, do that already as soon as we're done here, obviously. That's what I would test. Going back to the chart though, I think there's one interesting factor. So even though most of the subscriptions end up kind of similar, the real question you have to ask yourself is how much churn can you tolerate? So the
Mhm.
reason that weekly is, I'm looking at the chart again, weekly is the way it is, the way it slopes is because you're going to fight a ton of churn to get through a whole year's worth of LTV. It's not going to be as easy as that flat line of annual. And that's exactly what I was saying before about you always want to get that annual. That's why it's so important because right out of the gate, you're at 38 bucks. Whereas right out of the gate for a weekly, you're at $2, and $2 is not ideal. So really what you have to do is you have to figure out what is your churn tolerance. And by churn tolerance, I mean how much can you spend on user acquisition? How slow is your user acquisition? Apple ads, a little bit faster than organic. Doing some other kind of ads might be a little bit even faster than that because you have more control. And so if you're going for maybe a slow burn, so you're going to do everything yourself, it's only going to be ASO based, aim for a monthly and a yearly. If you're going for something really rapid, jack up the price and go weekly. This is what we see here. So it's nice that they all end up very similar, but it's how much effort you're going to have to put in terms of user acquisition and how much churn are you willing to take.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Cool. Great insights. Nothing to add here. Maybe we
We
can
do what we
go to
can.
the
Next
yeah,
slide.
yeah, next slide. Yeah, it's also really interesting because I started doing some paywall audit calls with our clients or other app founders, and the most asked question is what is the industry benchmarks like install to trial rate, trial to paid rate? Everyone wondering is uh, if they are doing good or not, and
Hmm.
that's why our report is here, and we can also start talking about this. Uh, I think we can talk about ours here. You know,
Yeah.
um, what's your take on it?
Where do I even begin? How much time do we have? We have enough time. So I think realistically, that's one of the most important. So I recently gave a few. I contributed to a book about indie app development, and one of my major contributions, I think slash hope, was to bring up the concept of conversion rates, because everyone thinks about how much money am I making. Obviously, that's what we're in this game for. How many downloads am I getting? That's a very easy proxy for revenue. But your conversion rate, your trial, your install to trial, or in my world, your page view to download, or even an impression to a page view to a download, those are super important because even if you have 10 downloads, if you're only converting one of those, or 10 impressions, if you're only converting one of those, even if you multiply everything by spending millions of dollars on user acquisition on Apple ads or Meta ads or something like that, you're not going to make a lot of money because your conversion rate is pretty tiny. Maybe 1 out of 10 is actually a good conversion rate, but in the grand scheme of things, if it's 1 out of 1,000, bringing that 1,000 to a million is not going to make you a lot more. So being able to one benchmark and understand what is a good conversion rate is so critical to a point where if you don't know this, you're really in trouble. Yeah, and it is very challenging. Again, especially because in these categories, most of the apps are fairly different. Even in education, some of the apps are for schools and some of the apps, so you would have to get them, where some of the apps are helping aids and cheating apps, which are now all over the place. And so they're so different. But I would say if you can get as close as you can to understand your conversion rate and then benchmark it, that's the number you're fighting. So you're fighting that install to trial rate, that trial to paid, install to paid if you're not doing subscriptions. So important to be able to tell what it is and to really visualize your whole funnel from impression all the way down to a paying user.
Yeah, and maybe I can also show the trial duration distribution by category insight from our report as we have limited time
That's some good
left.
data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if
Uh,
not, if you're watching this, go and download the report and then you'll see all the data.
Yeah.
we have 75 plus pages and we need hours
That's a
to
lot of
talk about
pages.
it.
We
Yeah.
need days to
Curious
talk about it.
Yeah. Max, maybe you can
Yeah.
make some comments here.
I like that we can see like a correlation between the previous slide and this slide in health and fitness. Like we
Hmm.
can really understand that the trial is very popular for this amount, for this category, and we discussed it in the beginning too, that the annuals are very popular. So we can like now combine it all
Hmm.
together. So health and fitness, they love offering trials, and they're most likely are long for like a week or so based on this graph. And that's why users start using the app and then they are ready to purchase the annual one. So it's pretty clear for me how it works and why it is in the same like position, and all the graphs are really showing that health and fitness is a pretty different category. While most of the other are using really from 0 to 3 days, and I see pretty the same pattern when I talk with the customers and see their like paywalls and stuff. That 7 days is pretty rare occasion, and 3 days is something that I see way more often. So right here, I would say that my recommendation is to really try using the trial, and this is a very good way to convert customers to the annual subscription because they want to get the value. And if you just ask them to pay, most likely they won't do it and they will just leave. So if you give them the trial and your app is good enough to provide the value and you just really fix their problems or solve their problems with the things your app is doing, whatever it's a PDF scanner or like whatever else scanner, then I think this is the best way. So you shouldn't be scared of providing the trials because these like 3 days or these 7 days, they won't cost that much for you, but they will bring you a lot of money afterwards because if they will convert to the annuals, then you're a winner. You just grabbed the best option, and this is something that you definitely need to try.
Yeah, that's so true. I think it's one of those things where the 3 days, it feels, as a developer, it feels like so much time for someone to test your app because you know everything. They're like, in 3 days, I can use my app 10,000 times. I'll collect so much value. And for a real person, it's like download the app, started a trial, completely forgot about having to
Yeah.
go to a meeting or something, or going out with friends, or having to eat dinner. And then a day goes by and they're like, oh, I got to try this before the trial expires. Then, like, okay, I'll do this later. And then wake up the next morning and go, oh, I got to do this one thing and then do it. So, for the most part, people are not going to be abusing your app. And I have thought about app abuse, and we've been abused for so many years, so we know the patterns and what they look like. And it's definitely something you have to think about, especially if you're doing something like AI or something where there is a cost for every interaction, even if it's minimal. So doing voice today, for example, in AI is so expensive, there just is no chance to do trial. Doing video, kind of the same, unless you got VCs and you're trying to bankroll this whole thing by someone else. But doing a little bit of ChatGPT these days, that's kind of easy. At this point, it's going to cost you a tiny bit, but it's a fraction of what it could have cost marketing costs. So if you think about it that way, that works. But again, like everything I was saying, you have to look at the competition because if you're given an 8 day trial and your competitors are doing three, maybe your users will be able to get everything they want out of 8 days and then they're not upgrading. And also test it. Test it over time. Try 3 days for a month, depending on how many downloads you have. Then try 8 days. Then try 2 weeks. You don't have to do that many times. So you only have to do it once or twice in your entire app's life, and you will know exactly what needs to happen. Super important. And again, it goes back to understanding all those conversion rates. If you're testing without understanding the conversion rates, I don't really know what you're testing for. You'll end up just looking at revenue, which could be influenced by so many things. But if you understand that your trial conversion rate is directly impacted by the length of the duration, which makes common sense, but sometimes it's not as obvious, especially to people who are thinking about the code, thinking about the implementation, thinking about the infrastructure. And those are all good things. Think about this in the same way. And that's where conversion rates become super critical.
Cool. And yeah, no one want to talk about the refund rates. Everyone
Oof.
hates it, but we have to talk about it, you know.
Hmm.
And the longer the plan, the higher the refund rate in our report. Uh, yeah, maybe we can also talk about it. And you know, you were talking about uh, the paywall A/B test ideas, but uh, I did add something there, but I would definitely check the refund rates. For example, if you have higher conversion rates on selling the annual plan, but I would definitely check the refund rates. If I have
Hmm.
more refunds, I really don't want to be bad with Apple, and then
Yeah.
if I have lower refund rates on the weekly plan, I would definitely switch to weekly plan for my
Interesting.
A/B test. Yeah, the second thing to consider. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think this chart is backwards, but I'm not sure why. I mean, I would expect for it to be backwards, I would say, because people are going to believe that they're fooled into weeklies. And that's what we see on Twitter all the time. My entire feed is people are complaining on how these apps are cheating them out of money by continuing to take their money weekly. So I would expect the weekly refund rate to be so much higher and the yearly to be so much lower because someone actually agreed to it. But I understand why it isn't. The weekly you see it's in front of your face all the time. So if you don't want it, you will go and cancel it. You don't need a refund. You will just realize what happened. It's also a lot less money. Whereas on the annual, you'll definitely forget, even though Apple will tell you that it's coming, but then it's a much higher, it's a 6x the price as we saw before in some cases. And you see them like, ah, crap. Now I have to go and get a refund. And Apple made it so much easier to get a refund that I kind of get it. But that's my take on it. I think the common sense is that it's backwards, but it isn't. It's just a matter of amount of money and immediacy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I thought that the difference would be even higher, but here it's like pretty flat, which is surprising for me because
Yeah.
weekly versus annual is like 1 against 54 weeks or how much in the year. So yeah, it's pretty a
Hmm.
lot. Well, the difference is not that big. And for me, I think it's more about not even the results of the graphs, but the idea that the refunds are usually connected with the fact that user doesn't receive enough value. So he either forgot that he paid for the app and he even doesn't need it anymore, or he was expecting something else inside and he's not satisfied with
Hmm.
it. So I think that really nowadays with the easy thing to do the refunds, you have to think and improve the value and the things and the functionality of your app. Otherwise, it's easy to purchase some traffic, acquire some users, place them on a great paywall, make them pay. But if they receive bad product in the end, in the inside of it, then they will most likely do the refund. So yeah, I would definitely think about making something unique, making something useful, making things that you really promised on the onboarding or on the product page in App Store, because now there is a lot of apps which are done in a weekend with some like vibe coding tools and stuff. So you really have to like make a bet on providing value and making great stuff.
And I think that's such a good, valuable point. All this vibe coding stuff that we see online, it's not real in a sense that you can make an app in a weekend. Technically, you can. It's not going to be good looking, and the marketing is going to be absolutely trash. So it may not even get to users. But with things like Apple Ads, you can get to users. But ultimately, the what you make is very different than the how you present it. So you can have a presentation that's super polished and super amazing for an app that isn't, and that's what creates this gap. But the one thing that I would always recommend is always read your reviews. Read your reviews because your users will tell you what they hate. They might ask for a refund and might say some very nasty stuff, but if you can put the emotion aside and look at the technical elements of it, you'll learn what you're doing wrong. And I love feedback myself. When people tell me that something that App Figures does is not good, I want to hear exactly what it is. I care about that more than I care about when people tell me everything we do is amazing. I like those too, and they make me feel happy. But it makes me feel happier as a product person, as a business guy, to know what kind of problem we're not solving. And you can see that. And the trick to doing that is also to read your competitor's review, because if someone is complaining about them, that could be such a good thing that will retain users that are leaving your app. And it takes such little time to do, especially now with AI and with all the crazy features that we have. So definitely worth understanding why your users are refunding. So not just the numbers that we have on the screen. So not just thinking, oh, maybe I should do less annual, or maybe I should be nicer to annuals, but more about why are they leaving? So all that, so you beat that 4%. And I think that's also a good thing. If you look at your app stats right now and your refund rate is less than 4% on annual, you're winning. You're beating the average. Obviously, you should do it within a smaller category and make sure that it's all aligned, because you don't want to compete with apps that might have something that is way easier to do retention on. But ultimately, that's the way to think about it.
Yeah. Um, the next data from the data for today. Um, yeah, these charts shows the relations
Look at
between the
that.
number of A/B tests and total app revenue. And we are mentioning A/B tests a lot of times in this live session. And you can see each dot is an app. In fact, teams that run a lot of A/B tests, and they can earn up to 100x more revenue than who doesn't run any A/B tests
That's
in our
incredible.
report.
It makes a ton of sense. I think if you don't test, then it means that you're going with your gut and intuition, and your gut and intuition might be good, but for most people, it's not going to be good. And the only ones it's going to be good for are the ones that have done this enough times, and then they A/B tested over time instead of it with this particular app. So the A/B testing is here. Very, very important to test as much as possible. I say that there should always be one A/B test running, at least in every single thing you do, whether it's your screenshots or something with your Apple ads or your custom product pages or your pricing or your paywall or the colors even on your paywall. Like whatever it is, you should test it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that really the more you experience, the more like uplift you can receive. And usually, I try to encourage customers to try experiments with the pricing because, as we've just saw, there is the huge world to explore, and you
Hmm.
just cannot be sure that you got the perfect price for each type of the duration. So you really need to try different ones, and then also you
Yeah.
can really add the visual parts, different paywalls, different mechanics, to different like toggles, crosses, and stuff. And yeah, I think there is a really great mechanism to get way bigger revenue and find the optimum like solution for your app. And I totally agree with you that it should be done constantly. Like do the experiments
Hmm.
all the time. The only problem I see is that the small apps they usually don't have enough, numbers to finish the A/B test, and they can
Hmm.
do it for like a month or 2 months because they just have very small amount of users because they don't have like money to invest to the user acquisition. But for big ones, I really encourage them to do it like every 2 3 weeks. Uh, Start the A/B test, get the results, finish, start new, and like make it really a constant process of like redoing it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to your point about smaller apps can still A/B test just over a much longer period.
Yeah,
But
yeah, for
that
sure.
doesn't negate testing. You should still test. And this is going to be a little bit controversial, but everyone says all your tests have to be statistically significant, and if they're not, you should reject them and do them again. And that makes sense when you can. But even if you can't, sometimes just seeing the user behavior at a very small scale can at least give
Mm.
you an idea for something to try. So even if it's not statistically significant, a test, because you may not have 10,000 impressions a day or 10,000 page views a day, give it a month, and eventually you will get a sense of what it is that you're trying to test. Unless you have absolutely no views, and then go and do some App Store optimization, go buy some Apple ads. They're pretty easy to get started with. I have a video on how to do that. But for most developers that I've talked to, there's enough, just enough to get started. So highly encourage for everyone to go and do it. The duration could be dependent on the performance, but it's still do it. You have to do it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Right now on Adapty, I'm building a product which encourages users to experiment more, and it combines one important thing which we discussed to analyze the competitors, and then we like kind of like make you the recommendations of what you should A/B test. So yeah, that's something that
Mhm.
should encourage them to do it more, and I think they will get bigger uplifts, bigger like improvements in the revenue, and that's something I'm very excited about.
Yeah. Recap for the today's webinar.
Have we gotten to the end
Maybe.
yet? That's it? No more slides? What am I going to
Yeah.
say next for?
Finally.
That was a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really a lot. Thanks for all the comments. Maybe I can add that. Don't sleep on weekly plans. Discover new regions outside the United States. Test different free trial periods. Uh, it depends on your app niche, and test higher price points, and always experiment for the last comment of the webinar. um, and I need to check if we have any more slides. Oh yeah, And if you haven't got the full report, you can just scan the QR code and download it. Yep. I really want to thank you, Ariel and Max,
Of course.
for all of your comments and insights for our report for the app developers. I'm checking, and I think we have no question left. But Ariel is really so active on X. I'm also following you, and I can see that. I think it's the best way to reach you out on X or LinkedIn, maybe, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, probably.
X.
Both.
Okay, cool. And Max,
Let's go with
what's
X.
the X? Okay,
Yeah, I think I'm more like reachable via LinkedIn. So yeah, if there will be any questions, I'm ready to discuss. I'm ready to give some ideas or really like answering yours. So LinkedIn is something that I, for now, use more, but definitely I follow Ariel on X, and I really love the tweets and the stuff. So yeah, it's good to see that we're like all keep in touch even after all these meetings and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
You're all making me blush. But go follow me on X, obviously. Subscribe to my newsletter, appfigures.com/newsletter, and find me on YouTube, youtube.com/appfigures.
cool. Thank you everyone who joined us today, and it was really great to discuss all of the details about our report. But we have so many insights inside the report you can check out. If you have any questions, you can reach out on X, LinkedIn, any social platform, or just email us, and happy to share any insights on answers. Thank you all. See you in the next webinars. Ariel, Max,
Thank you, Murat. Thank you for hosting
Thank
and
you for having me.
yeah.
bye bye.
Have a great day, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye, guys.